I've always been a couch potato. I tell people close to me that my ambition in life is to have enough time to sit at home and watch TV. TV was a companion, an inspiration, something of a friend for this only child growing up in Lagos, Nigeria. And TV hosts lit up my world, stirred up my imagination, and made life more colorful. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to pay tribute to the TV icons of my childhood and teenage years, those that made me think of the world inside the TV box and imagine myself living that life. Now, 5 years of with Chude, 25 years in the media, I can finally do it. So today, as a With Chude special, I will be celebrating 50 Nigerian TV icons or talent that were absolutely my faves when I was growing up. This should be fun. I'll start from where it all began for me. This woman, Funmi Iyanda. You know, I remember watching Funmi Iyanda on television and just thinking, how can someone be so amazing? You know, TV in Nigeria at the time was so stuffy, was so distant. And I would watch TV abroad, talk shows abroad, and I would feel like they were talking to me like I was actually in their living room. And so maybe I thought there was something wrong with Nigeria where we couldn't have television like that, until I think in 1998, I watched Funmi Iyanda on TV. I didn't even know her name. And she was exactly the kind of TV host I thought TV deserved. To eventually go out and have her give me my first paying job was one of the great honors of my life. I still think that Funmi Iyanda is the greatest Nigerian TV host. I still think so. Shoot me, do whatever you want. I also think she's one of the most brilliant human beings I ever met. I think that New Dawn was a happy place for me. I loved going to work every morning because she created this magical space. We've not seen a TV show like New Dawn since Funmi left. And speaking about, comfort in front of the cameras, one of the people that I admired a lot was Nonye Osi, as she called her name. Nonye Osi was the brightest star, I think, in MITV, She was just informal, the way she talked to the camera, talked with the camera. It was like she was in a relationship with her viewers. And also she was just incredibly kind to me. She had me on her show to talk about her book. She supported me. She introduced me to other people. She was a star, but she was also incredibly human. Yeah. And also on that note, there was my auntie, Gina Harry. Gina Harry used to do a show called Celebrating Jesus on MBI. I worked with Celebrating Jesus as a volunteer. It was the #1 gospel TV talk show in the country. And we've not had anything like that since. She was also a singer. She would sing the song. She had this album, Bread of Heaven. She had remixed the hymn, and it was Fill My Cup, Lord, with the violins and all of that. And her show was just fun. All the pastors, all the gospel artists would make a beeline to MBI to sit down with Gina Harry on Celebrating Jesus. And then there was Agatha Amata. Now this one became my authentic auntie till today. Gina Harry was my authentic auntie, but I still have a relationship with Agatha Amata. Agatha was the first person on whose set I worked as a production assistant and a production coordinator and a producer. Inside that with Agatha was the biggest audience show in the country. I had a massive audience, talked about the most urgent social issues. Agatha was, people compared her with Jenny Jones, and she was compared to Queen Latifah, who had that kind of a talk show. And there was just an earthiness about Agatha. And she was part of a power family. There was Agatha Amata, Fred Amata, Ruke Amata, this entire family. And she was the only female that was a superstar. And she moved away from them. They were all in film. She went into television. She was widely syndicated. Agatha Amata was a star. Chukwudi Okolie-Ugbaja. Let me tell you about Chukwudi Okolie-Ugbaja. This is how we used to say on TV. He'd be like, my name is Chukwudi Okolie-Ugbaja. I used to have so much fun, but he was so erudite. And I think he's back on TV. I think I've seen him teach at the Channels TV journalism school, at least. And it was a newscaster, but he was also a political talk show host on MBI. He was just larger than life. God, I miss watching TV in my teens. It was so much fun. MBI especially was so much fun. Teni Aofiyebi was another star. This is one of her promos. This was over 25 years. I remember her promos. She's like, I myself only heard about it a couple of days ago. And I still remember Teni Aofiyebi's talk show on MBI. It was regal. It was elegant. It was superior. I miss her. And talking about elegant and distinguished, my auntie, Alero Edu, the fact that Auntie Alero is still going strong, even today, in the era of Gen Z, is just awe-inspiring. She was host, amongst others, but primarily of Sunrise on Channels Television. I also worked with her as producer of the women's panel on New Dawn with Funmi Iyanda, where herself, Susanna Yohanesti, Shola Salako, Ijoma Ogwebu, sometimes Ireti Doyle would come in. It was inspired, I think, by The View in the United States of America. And it was just brilliant. Auntie Alero was fiery. I know, and I think she was already 50 then. And she would say, look, I'm 50, I don't have time for this rubbish today. And she still is so fiery on Channels Television even today. People saw my viral interview with Ireti Doyle in 2023, I think. But I've known Auntie Ireti since I was, 16? She wrote the foreword for my second novel that eventually didn't get published. She taught me how to be confident, how to hold hands firmly when I shake people. But she also was just a TV idol for me. I think she had this breakfast show, I think the original Morning Ride, on NTA 2, Channel 5. And she also eventually had Oge with Iritiola, which was the prime fashion show in the country before people even knew that fashion was going to be a big deal. Herself and her husband, Patrick Doyle, hosted delightfully Morning Ride. And I think they also experimented with a number of other TV shows, especially partnering with NTA 2. I also remember that I think they hosted events at Calabar Carnival. The Doyles on Morning Ride were a delight to watch. God, I have a lot of aunties on television. Adesuwa Onyenokwe. I also interviewed Adesuwa last year, Auntie Adesuwa, and she was TV's it girl. She was gorgeous. She was A-list. She was the it girl for her era. She was hosting Today's Woman with Adesuwa. It was on the NTA network. She was also hosting what was for a long time the #1 interview show in the country, One on One. And she was just very personable. She was very likable. She was very spontaneous. She was like light and color on your television. God, I just miss the TV of my youth. And since we're on the subject of Adesuwa Onyenokwe, I'm going to talk about Ohi Alegbe, who was just brilliant. The way I pronounce one on one is from Ohi. So he always said, good morning. Welcome to One on One. The elocution, the diction, the way that the words were selected, the comfort with the camera, the authority with which he asked questions. He pressed, but you were not offended. He was, Ohi Alegbe was a thing, like Gen Z say. I have a lot of TV aunties. Obviously, because I was a couch potato. Abike Dabiri now. Auntie Abike is my auntie. She is one of the dearest people to me. Ever since I knew her, I met her for the first time, I think when I was 15 or 16, and this is the truth, she was the biggest, most watched TV host in the country because she was host of Newsline. And Newsline was Nigeria's biggest TV show. Every Sunday, news magazine program, the whole nation watched. She was so popular. She broke multiple stories. I remember the Miracle Baby story. People just loved Abike Dabiri. And at the height of her fame, I met her and she was so kind to me. She continues to be kind to me. She has done important things for me over the past 25 years that I will be eternally grateful for. And what I liked in television was to meet people who, the way they were on TV, was the way they were out of TV. They were not performing, they were not faking. It was that legend, it was her iconic status that made her so easy to vote for when she contested for House of. It was just like, there was no debate. Abike Dabiri, we are going to vote for her. Legend. And Cyril Stober. Look, by interview with Cyril Stober, you know how it went now. I'd never met him until then. This is possibly the great, as far as I'm concerned, as far as many people are concerned, the greatest newscaster alive. But he went on to do Tuesday Live, went on to do One-on-One as well. And you just watch him on TV and he just looked like he was having, even though he was very serious, it just looked like he was having fun. Like, this will just made me want to be on TV. Like, the camera felt like home to Cyril Stober. He belonged there. He still belongs there. I'm talking about NTA greats, Yinka Craig. It was interesting because Yinka Craig had already been a journalism great before AM Express. But AM Express was his largest playground, especially post-democracy. And it's interesting because, AM Express was a competitor for the show I was producing, New Dawn, with Funmi Iyanda. But I loved AM Express. AM Express was a fantastic show, period. So where Funmi was the star and the center of attention, the grouping of AM Express was the center of attention. And Yinka Craig was the lead host, and he presided over that kingdom. He was just, I don't know how to say it. It was TV genius. You couldn't surprise him on TV. There was no conversation he couldn't manage, from politics to entertainment. If it was a musician, if it was a business person, Yinka Craig was on the scene. When he passed, it was just tragic. You felt like you knew him, but of course I didn't know him. It was just tragic. And for some reason, I remember thinking of him the other day and thinking, I miss Yinka Craig. And talking about presiding, he presided over AM Express with Sadiq Daba, another icon, another legend who we lost. I think Sadiq Daba was already a legend from, if I'm not wrong, Cockcrow at Dawn. And Sadiq Daba was brilliant. First, he was brilliant as an actor. Just brilliant. I think he was in Citation by Kunle Afolayan in recent times. And I think he was in a Bolanle Austin Peters movie, I'm not sure. But Sadiq Daba was, he was slim. I almost have an image of Sadiq Daba smoking on TV, even though I'm sure that couldn't have been allowed in NTA. But that's how comfortable he was with the camera. He played with it. You could see that he was having fun. He was one of those greats. When I came out of school, there were these great guys, Funsho Alabi, Jimmy Sholanke, all these guys who bestrode the art scene like colossuses. And Sadiq Daba, I think, embodied the spirit of that era. Yes, so I can't believe it's 25 years already in the media. 25 years since I was watching Funmi Iyanda on television and thinking, I want to be like that woman. Let me call you back. Right. The list continues.